So the US Supreme Court has concluded that living things are patentable. Again, you can look up the details here. I'm not going to go into any more on this slide, but very interesting uh, history contained in these court cases. The court found no irreconcilable differences between the different forms of protection for plants available in the United States. In other words, the court said, there's nothing that we can find that says you can't have both utility and Plant Variety Protection Act. The court addressed post-sale restrictions, specifically what can farmers do with seeds of the patented plant after purchase. That's pretty limited. Essentially, if I grow seeds, all I can do with those seeds is use them as they were intended for the product. If I make wheat seeds and it's patented, I can't sell it anymore. I can't save it anymore for replanting. It goes into bread or oil production or whatever. I sell the seed to be used as it was primarily being grown for. I can't save some for myself anymore. So the court really locked that in. You still have to be able to prove that somebody stole your variety, which back in the days when this was happening, the DNA fingerprinting and such was not sufficiently mature to be able to go to court with it. And courts had no idea how to handle DNA evidence. A lot better now with the ability to not only do DNA fingerprinting of your varieties and have that on file, have that as part of your patent, but now courts, I think, are very comfortable with the concept of DNA evidence. The Plant Variety Protection Act and the Plant Patent Act also can provide protection in the US, but these protections do not override the utility patents. So again, together they are stronger. Now you can only have 2 out of the 3. There's a utility patent, and you can get a utility patent on anything, any plant. Doesn't matter if it's sexually reproduced or asexually reproduced. You can get a utility patent on anything, potentially. The other 2, the Plant Patent Act, is only for those asexually reproduced varieties, excluding tubers. So things that are grafted primarily, cuttings and graftings. Or you get the PVP if it's sexually reproduced or a tuber. So you pick the PVP or plant patent, whichever one fits for your crop, and get a utility patent, if you can. Due to the more stringent requirements to obtain a utility patent, applicants must present a new, useful, non-obvious invention and meet the requirements of the code, the US code. Utility patent holders receive the greater benefits than provided by either the Plant Patent Act or the PVPA. And that's really important. Like I said, the 2 together are stronger, but the utility patents are harder to get. There's a lot more proof that you need to show at the utility patent level that this particular variety is new and unique. It's harder to get. The protections are higher, but it has a few holes in it. And so by taking the utility patent, if you can get one, adding to it the Plant Variety Protection Act certificate or the plant patent, together they're stronger. They're more stronger in terms of protecting the breeder and restricting the buyer of that seed or that cutting or that tuber from doing something with it that the owner of the variety doesn't want them to do. Okay, so can you get the PVPA certificate without a utility patent? Of course you can, and sometimes you have to, because there might be something that happened where you just can't get the utility patent, but you still can get the PVP certificate. Or you can get a plant patent, but you can't get the utility patent. In this day and age, I think companies are savvy enough, they're planning hard enough from the very beginning. Their research programs are very efficient. They know what they're doing. Their legal teams have discussed this. So as far as I know, almost all of the PVPs are also getting utility patents now, for the most part. Almost all of the plant patents are also getting utility patents, for the most part. If you get the utility patent, which is the best one, the other one's almost for free because you've already done the hard work to get the utility patent. It's just a matter of a little more paperwork, some filing fees, a couple thousand extra bucks. It's not a big deal. Monsanto versus McFarling. It is thus established that the right to save seed of plants registered under the PVPA does not impart the right to save seed of plants patented under the Patent Act. And I do understand some of the complaints of some small farmers that got caught up in the mess of the right to save seed and patents and things like that. If you don't want it, don't buy patented seed. There's lots of varieties out there. And there certainly were lots more. You don't have to go out and buy somebody else's seed and then break the law by saving the seed. And McFarling was, this is an unfortunate story. He does not deserve the almost folk hero status standing up to Monsanto. You always like the underdog who's fighting the monster mega corporation that has no feeling. I've worked with people in Monsanto. I've never worked for Monsanto, but the researchers at Monsanto are like researchers anywhere else. They're not in some evil empire, but Monsanto definitely has the reputation of a very harsh legal team that smells blood in the water. It doesn't care who you are. They'll come after you. And they do, and they have. In my opinion, if you look into McFarling, he was just a jerk who knew he was breaking the law, who basically wanted to say, up yours, Monsanto. I'm going to do what the hell I damn well please. Come and get me. The idea that he was only saving his seed and he had no idea that Monsanto's special patented variety was on his property is the biggest crock of doo-doo. He was guilty. He was intentionally guilty. He was flaunting it. He was rubbing it in Monsanto's face. And it was a situation where I don't like some of the stories that have come out claiming McFarling is some sort of a small farm hero. He was a law-breaking jerk. And there are some others that got caught up in things that I think legitimately have a better claim as farmers that got caught up in the legal excitement of Monsanto's legal team back in these days. But anyway, I'll not go into any more of McFarling. You can look it up if you want. Wrong person to be the hero. And there's even a documentary that showcases the story in a way that I have to laugh. Anyway, in light of the Supreme Court's interpretation of Congress's intent, we conclude that Congress did not intend to prohibit owners of utility patents from enforcing seed-saving prohibitions in their license. So, in other words, just because the PVP says you can save seed, the utility patent says you can't. And if you have a PVP and a utility patent, it is the owner's right to say you can't save seed, period. You can enforce the restrictions in the utility patent, the stronger restrictions for the most part. Again, there are a few things, and I forget the details exactly of, which benefits the utility patent gains by having the PVP, but there are subtle legal things that together they are both stronger. In Canada, despite the lack of utility patents for plants, the Schmeiser case holds that the patentee can protect plants regenerated from patented cells, whether or not patent protection for the gene and the cell extends to activities involving the plant is not relevant to the patent's viability. In other words, to summarize, it's just saying they probably would have had the same basic result in Canada. Even though there is no utility patent protection in Canada for seed varieties, plant varieties, what happened in the Schmeiser case would largely would have been expected to go in the same direction in Monsanto's favor. Oh, actually, excuse me. Roundup Ready canola. I'm sorry, the last slide, scratch what I just said about the McFarling. The folk hero, I think, was Schmeiser. It's Schmeiser that was the folk hero in the documentary showing this small, poor farmer going up against Monsanto. I can't remember the details of what McFarling did, but yeah, Schmeiser was the schmuck who basically said, up yours, Monsanto, and paid the price. Saving and planting seed, then harvesting and selling plants that contain the patented cells and genes constitute utilization of the patented material within the meaning of the Plant Patent Act. So in other words, you're basically, by saving seed and replanting it, you are copying a patented material. That would be a violation. In the US, utility patent claims can also restrict post-sale activities. So what you can do after the seed is sold. So I won't get into that at the moment. In the US, courts have found that bag tags like shrink wrappers can effectively license one-time use of plants or seeds. So that's Pioneer Hybrid versus Ottawa Plant and Food, or Plant Food Incorporated. Bag tags, that's something we haven't talked about. So if you really, really want to tighten the noose in terms of restricting what anybody can do, you sell them wheat seeds. What do you want them to do? Grow wheat, sell the wheat to the market where they're going to make bread, not replant it. You want to sell them more seed to plant next year. That's the purpose of making these varieties. So you can sell the seed year after year. And by putting a bag tag on, it's essentially a tag on the outside of the container that lists some details. It's like a contract. It is a contract. It is a single one-time use contract that specifies in clearer language so that you don't have to expect your grower to be familiar with patent law. They can read a tag. And so the bag tag concept is really about creating a clear, understandable language for the grower, the purchaser of that seed, to understand that the purchase of this seed comes with the following restrictions. In many cases, those restrictions just clarify things that are vague in the law. In other cases, it just restates what's already in the law. You cannot save seed for the purpose of replanting. First time I ever saw a bag tag was so funny, because bag tag is the generic term. But seed comes in all sorts of things. It comes in 5-gallon buckets. It comes in canvas bags. It comes in metal tins. It comes in all sizes and shapes of packaging material. And the first time I saw one was on a 5-gallon bucket. And there was a notice on a sealed 5-gallon bucket saying that the bag tag included with this seed must be read prior to using the seed. And it contains vital information that restrict the authorized use of this seed, something like that. All right, that's fine. Then right under it, it says by opening this container, you agree to every single item listed in the tag. And it had a little note that the tag was located inside the 5-gallon can, inside the sealed can. So the only way to get to the tag to read it was to open the can. And once you open the can, you have agreed to it. That was kind of a funny joke. Now, I'm sure had it been the first time that we dealt with the company, that might have been a little different, but we kind of already knew what the restrictions were. We already knew what was going on. We weren't worried about it, but it was pretty funny. The bag tag should be on the outside of the dang container. But now you've got really good protection. You've got a utility patent, you got a Plant Variety Protection Act certificate or a plant patent, utility, plant, PVP, and then you throw a bag tag on it to really cover it up. Now the grower can't claim, oh, I didn't know. There's a lot of things you can protect yourself and your ability to sell that seed and keep your varieties from being stolen by utilizing these different tools. Pioneer Hybrid versus Ottawa Plant Food. The court found that the meaning of the clear, unambiguous language of the bag labels at issue in this case is that the only right granted to a buyer was the right to use the seed to produce forage or grain, thereby reserving all other rights to the patentee, including the right to sell or resell. That's it. You're either growing this for grain or for forage to feed to animals. That's it. And the bag tag was clear, clear, clear. The bag label and bag tag unambiguously grant only a right to use the seed to produce grain or forage. The label and tag unambiguously do not grant the buyer the right to resell patented seed. Now, I'm not sure what one this is. I can't remember this particular case off the top of my head, but it brings to mind one individual that I knew. He was a farmer. Yeah, right. Really didn't do much farming. He owned a number of farms and hired farm managers to manage the various operations. But his real side job, besides just collecting the money for other people's work, was to get into his sailboat and fill that sailboat up with seed in the United States, where he could get seed much cheaper for certain things like lettuce. And he would just stock up on a bunch of seed, take it to Europe and turn around and sell it where prices were much higher. And he could make some money after all of his expenses and time to sail from Florida to the Mediterranean. He made a bundle, and in the process had quite an interesting lifestyle. Was that legal? Oh, hell no. You can't resell somebody else's seed. You buy it, you can't resell it. And there are different issues with that. I mean, I buy a hairbrush. Can I turn around and sell it to somebody else? Nobody's going to get their nose bent out of shape because I bought a hairbrush at the dollar store for $1, turned around and sold it to somebody next to me for $2. Whatever. But a patented item is different. What about my cell phone? That's got all kinds of patents in it. Can I turn around and sell the phone? Yeah, I actually can. I can buy the phone and I can sell it to my neighbor. Uh, I'm going to buy a new phone, I'll sell it to my neighbor. Nobody's going to go after me for two reasons. One, it's a small, inconspicuous transaction. I'm not making money off of it. I'm just minimizing my loss of money. It's a used phone. I'm selling it to recoup some of my costs, but I'm not selling something to be copied. And I'm not underselling into a market to somehow uh, damage their sales in that market. So it would be another thing if I copied one of the chips in that phone. Wow, this is a really cool chip. You can do all kinds of things with this. And I um, set up a little chip manufacturing thing, not as hard to do as some people think. You can make some pretty good chips in a garage and sell them. You cloned the chip. Is that illegal? Absolutely, because I'm recreating something. In the US, it has been found that mistaken planting of patented seeds is not a defense to patent infringement. You got to keep decent records. If you accidentally planted patented things, the level of incompetence that would require is not a defense in the court. Lack of knowledge of post-sale restrictions of patent coverage is not a defense. So I didn't know it had a bag tag when I bought that seed, or somebody took it out of the bag and put it in another container. No, you need employees who understand when you're buying seed, there are legal trade secret type things. There are intellectual property issues. There are all of these things called patents, bag tags. You got to know about them. And you can't just say, I didn't know. Lack of intent. I'm sorry, the seed just slipped and I accidentally planted that 100 acres with your seed. No, I didn't intend to plant your seed. It was just an accident. None of that flies. That's laughable. In one case, there was a grower who knew that trucks driving by contained grain with Monsanto's Roundup Ready seed. In other words, seed that has a gene in it where the grain can survive Roundup. If you spray Roundup, it's a way to reduce production costs. Instead of having to worry about all the losses and problems with weeds, most of the weeds are Roundup sensitive. So I plant my Roundup Ready crop, it starts growing, and I spray that crop with Roundup. It kills the weeds, but my crop keeps growing because my crop is tolerant to the Roundup. It's got a special gene in it. All right. He knew that other growers were growing that seed, driving right by his property every day. And what would happen? Grain would fall off the trucks and he would gather that grain that, on the side of the road and plant some of it and spray it with Roundup. Anything that survived on the edge of his property, figured, hey, there's on the roadside, there's on the edge of the property. If it landed next to my field or into my field, that's their problem. I own it now. I didn't go steal it. I didn't buy Monsanto's protected Roundup Ready seed. I was running experiments by developing my own Roundup Ready, by spraying my own crop and developing my own Roundup Ready crop. Oh, baloney. He was just selecting for Monsanto seed that he knew was going to be there. Sure enough, he found quite a number of the seeds, grew them up, planted them out to grow a bunch more, and boom, now he's got his own copies of Monsanto's Roundup Ready seed. That was done with intent and knowledge. And any claim that he was trying to breed his own by putting Roundup pressure on the edge of his field was a bunch of baloney. Anyway, In the US, there is tension between the doctrine of patent exhaustion and one-time use restrictions. So this one's going to take a moment to wrap our heads around. So let's take a break.